So we're going to continue in a series that we've called Let's Just Start Over, and I'm excited to be here with you. I hope your weekend's been good for you. Yesterday, I got to take part in a memorial service with my friend Rob here for a just beautiful human being. Jose Tavera, my realtor's husband, passed away at 56 years old, and it was tragic. And it was beautiful the time we had together yesterday and sharing stories together and seeing people that I hadn't seen for a long time, actually, and connecting with new people. And my heart continues just to go out for the family, honestly. And I hope if you have time this week and your thoughts and prayers can be with them, that would be huge. It's Michelle, Chelsea, the daughter, and Alex, the son in the family. Last Sunday, we launched the epic story of Joseph, the epic story in Genesis chapter 37. That was part of this bigger story. This is why we went this direction. The Sunday before that, Molly had shared about the arc of history, the arc of redemption that we're all a part of. And for me, the easiest way for me to think about it is the seasons of the year. The arc of history, new creation. Things are new in the spring, and then we have the waiting, the living in the summer, and then we have the things that die in the fall, and the burial in the winter, and then back around to new life in the spring. And Joseph's story is packed with the bigger story, just packed. Over and over, this cycle actually continues to happen. And so I wanted to go to the next chapter of Genesis, and this would be 38. However, there's a little break in Joseph's story where they talk about Joseph's brother Judah and his wife Tamar, which is a very important story, but we're going to save that for another time. So we'll go to chapter 39, and that's where we continue the story. So Joseph, favored by his dad Jacob, thrown in a pit by his jealous brothers, and now he's in the house of Potiphar, the captain of the guard for Pharaoh. And that's where we're at. And I want to start here. Now, Joseph became the overseer of the entire household. Talk about when life gives you lemons, right? I mean, he became the overseer of the entire household. I mean, Potiphar, the captain of the guard, entrusted Joseph with everything of the household. So that's where we're at this point. He had gotten into the graces of his master's heart. And there's a definite story arc of redemption from literally being in a pit to now this kind of new life, this new chapter, making the best of really horrible circumstances. The author tells us, and I'm laughing right now because this is just interesting. The author continues by telling us that Joseph is not only handsome, he's also good looking. Like, why did they have to add the second part? I think handsome's pretty much, that covers it. I get where you're going with this. But no, 39:6. Now, Joseph was handsome and good looking. All right? You need to know this. I think we get the point. The author is setting the stage for something to come. And apparently, if you weren't handsome and good looking, this would not happen to you. Okay? That's what they're trying to tell us. So Potiphar's wife is making advances on Joseph at this point. And Joseph just constantly is refusing her. It's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to betray my master. And so she's gotten to the point where she feels just rejection. I don't know what else she's feeling at this point, but there is a power dynamic there, obviously, being that she is the master's wife. So eventually she's had enough rejection and she frames him. She frames him for assault. And just like as the brothers framed Joseph, framed the particular situation by taking his garment, his robe, and bringing it back as false evidence that Joseph was dead, this time the garment is taken off of Joseph by Potiphar's wife and given as false evidence yet again that Joseph had done this wrong thing. This horrible, this horrific thing. So here we are again. So he flees naked in fear. Potiphar finds out, and then we have this parallel. So just like the brothers threw him in a pit, now Joseph, again, the arc of redemption, new life, what's coming next? We're going to go ahead and get thrown in a pit. So he gets thrown in prison. Again, he's in this deep, dark place, and we pick up with Genesis 39:20. And Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he remained there in prison. So here we go again. And you have to wonder at this point, I'll back that up. You have to wonder at this point if Joseph is thinking, anytime something good happens, I'm just waiting for the hammer to fall. Have you been there? That's a rhetorical question. We've all been there. We get there. I'm just waiting for the hammer to fall. It's almost like, man, I don't even know if I can enjoy this good moment in my life because I know something bad's coming. It just has to. So that's where Joseph is at this point. And it reminded me of Downton Abbey. I know that's a really strange segue. But if you've ever seen Downton Abbey, and I'm sorry, this is a spoiler if you are wanting to watch it right now for part of it. But this family has gone through massive tragedy amongst the affluent family, and then I forget what you call them, but the housekeepers, what'd you call them? Staff? Yeah, staff's a good word for it. Tragedy amongst both groups. Their lives are intertangled, and Mary, the oldest daughter, has lived a life where she just doesn't have her heart open to love or anything like that. And then eventually she gets married. And it's this beautiful moment, and it's good, and everything is good, and there's beautiful music, and then her husband's driving home in this newfangled car, and he gets in an accident and dies. What the heck? I hate that moment. I hate that moment so bad. I'm like, what the heck? Why did they have to do that? And it is a spoiler, so I apologize for that. But in this case, it just leaves her wondering if she'll ever find happiness again. And just like we all do at some point in time, she closes herself off to any sort of love after that. Because why? She wants to protect herself from the hammer falling, because it does fall sometimes. And that's where she's at. So apparently, Joseph doesn't simply lie in prison and give up on his dreams. He doesn't say, you know what, I'm closing myself off to any possibility of good things happening again in my life. Instead, when life gives you lemons, Joseph makes lemonade. That's what he does. So, and here we are in this story. His attitude is like, I see an obstacle, but I call it a challenge. That is where he's at. Joseph just takes what is seemingly impossible and makes it possible. That's just what he does every time. And I'm always fascinated when I drive over the 172 bridge, especially this time of year. I don't know if you know where I'm going, but there are things on the river, lots of them. And I drive and it's zero, like this morning, and I look out from the bay to the pier and I see 100+ ice-shanties out there, and I think, these people are absolutely nuts. But they love it. They love it. I know there are people here that ice fish, and it to me is that resilience. It's similar to what Joseph had. Oh man, winter is rough here, and people who aren't from the Arctic Midwest, they don't know. They don't know. And they're like, what in the world are you doing? Like, why would you want to get out in that stuff? It's burning my face, But that's what happens here. Folks who have weathered the frozen tundra for generations, they make the most of brittle winters. Don't we? Don't we? That's what happens here. They display resilience in what I think is seemingly impossible weather. And I'm going to try it. I'd like to try it this year. We'll see what happens. And that's Joseph, too, making the most of seemingly impossible circumstances. And this is where we get to 39:22. What happens? He's in prison. The chief jailer committed to Joseph's care all the prisoners who were in prison. Now he's taking care of everyone. And whatever was done, he was the one who did it. The chief jailer paid no heed to anything that was in Joseph's care. The dude was empowered in prison. He's like, yeah, he's probably going to do the right thing. I'm not even going to really pay attention. So they say because the Lord was with him and whatever he did, the Lord made prosper. So, of course, the author clearly believes God intervened in the impossible. It wasn't simply that Joseph just had the right attitude. It was that God intervened in the impossible. Nelson Mandela once said, I thought I put blanks in between those. I guess I didn't. Nelson Mandela once said, it always seems impossible until it's done. It always seems impossible until it's done. Man, that brought up something for me. You guys know Roger Bannister? Does that name ring a bell? In 1954, no one had ever ran, I'm going to get here, the 4-minute mile. Never happened before. In fact, most people, including scientists, believe that it wasn't possible, that our bodies couldn't sustain that endured speed for that long, for 1,500 meters. So, on May 1st, 1954, Roger Bannister, a 25-year-old Olympian who had thought about retiring 2 years before that at 23, seems a little young to retire, but he, in his lanky 6'2" body, ran the first ever 4-minute mile. And they have a film of that. I watched a little of it last night. And he's just he finishes and it looks like he might die from that experience, but he did it. And he did it again 2 months later, along with someone else, John Landy. And he broke his record. Roger Bannister broke his record. And then something happened where it just seems like what we thought was impossible collectively became possible because someone saw it done. A beautiful thing. 1,500 athletes have broken the 4-minute mile since then. What? That's fascinating. Someone even ran it in 3 minutes and 43 seconds. I don't even remember their name, but 3 minutes and 43 seconds. All because everyone thought it was impossible until it was done. It's amazing how our minds and bodies work. And I think what happened was Bannister, in a symbolic way, gave everyone who was striving for this permission. He gave people permission to believe it was possible. Permission to find possibility. And I love that. Do we kind of need that sometimes when we're in a place like, the hammer's going to fall? I am feeling that coming. Things are a little too smooth right now. But do we each just want that invitation to believe that the impossible is actually possible? I need it. I probably need that every day. Because there are times when I think this is not going to work out, whatever it may be, in my life. This is definitely going to fall through at some point. I feel like monsters are chasing me from behind. When are they going to catch up to me? When is it all going to catch up? And we find ourselves in the pit of despair, And you also could be here. You could be there today. I am not presumptuous enough to believe that just because we're in these pews that we're all just doing great, When circumstances leave us wondering, how in the world are we going to overcome? Maybe God is ready. Maybe God is about to make the impossible possible. That's something we can choose to believe in. That's a choice. And it probably is part of the secret to living a life of hope, is choosing to believe that the impossible is possible. There's something we can choose to believe in. As Jesus was talking to his disciples about the impossibility of a rich man entering heaven, and we know, some of us may know that story. It's harder for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. Jesus, though, said this because the disciples said, well, then who can be saved? Jesus said this in Mark 10. Jesus looked at them and said, for mortals, it is impossible, but not for God. For God, all things are possible. And lastly, in the redemptive arc of history that we've been talking about, suffering and pain, we know that's inevitable. It's always part of the story, but it's never the whole story. It's never the end. When we find ourselves down and out, there's hope on the other side of redemption. When the grass withers, right, and the leaves fade and the ground swallows all of that up and it seems like everything's going to be dead, we already know that it's going to come back to life. We just know. What if we could have that kind of confidence? Like, I know there's suffering. I know it feels like I'm in a pit. I know. But I also know that spring is coming. It always does. Wow, blessed assurance. I want that to be my story. And we are part of that creation. We always have been. We're part of the bigger story, right? Spring always follows winter. But even in the winter, we can go ice fishing. Let's pray. God, I thank you so much for how you continue to work on our collective hearts as a church community, where we can actually see what it looks like to be the hands and feet of Jesus Christ. I thank you for opening my eyes up to the opportunities that are already in this community, as Rob talked about this morning. And I pray that I will just simply take one step forward. I just pray for those who are coming in here with the weight of the world on their shoulders or whatever burdens they might have. Give them rest. Give them peace. I pray for those who are in a place where life is actually pretty good and momentum is there. I pray that we can believe also that the impossible can be possible, that we won't just simply be waiting for the hammer to fall, but we will live in this moment, appreciating all that we have. And I thank you that Jesus reminded us, for mortals it is impossible, but for God nothing is impossible. Thank you so much for this group of people today, this morning. And I pray that we walk out of this place a little lighter. In your heavenly name, amen.